Okay, good morning. Hello and welcome to the 2018-2019 Leadership Franklin Graduation Day and Group Project presentations. I'd like to welcome all of our Leadership Franklin alumni, members of the media, and special guests. My name is Jeff Smith, and I'll be introducing the presentations today. At the beginning of each Leadership Franklin year, the class is divided into groups. Each group is asked to come up with a project that is aimed at serving the Franklin community. We're excited to hear about the projects today and learn more about the benefits to our community. Our first group is, the members are Chad Smith, Megan Weisinger, Kurt Winstead, Lee Hunter, and Lynn Maddox. Group 1 sought to create a project that was not only sustainable, but connected downtown Franklin's most traveled and visited areas, as well as involved the new Franklin Public Arts Commission. With those broader goals in mind, they commissioned an artist, Duncan McDaniel, to create a bike rack that highlighted the spirit and heritage of Franklin. He had several great ideas, but they all agreed on a design that illustrated how the Harpeth River flows through downtown was a perfect idea. And with Steve Bacon's help, they had a place to install it, right in front of the new Harpeth Hotel near the corner of 2nd and Main. They hope that this project will provide hotel guests, residents, and visitors a way to bike to all attractions throughout the area. They also hope that they'll take advantage of the uniqueness of the installation and take photos and share on social media, or even just enjoy its position in the historic downtown that currently has little public art, something that they hope changes in the near future. So let's hear from group number 1.
Well, good morning. We are really excited to tell you a little bit more about the project that we've been working on this past year. But before we get into the details of the project, we really just quickly wanted to introduce ourselves as the members of Group 1. So I guess I'll go first. My name is Megan Weisinger, and I am the Director of Business Development for Visit Franklin.
And I'm Lynn Maddox. I'm at Vanderbilt University in Government and Community Relations.
I'm Kurt Winstead. I'm an attorney and also in the Tennessee National Guard.
I'm Lee Hunter. I'm Executive Vice President at Capstar Bank.
And I'm Chad Schmidt. I'm Kurt Winstead's personal assistant. Partner with Sheridan Public Relations.
Aren't we all?
I'm aide de camp.
We chose to pursue a very creative yet very complex project this year. Our project is a public art bike rack that we've entitled Shadow of the Harpeth. And there were several reasons why we chose to pursue this particular project. One of the reasons was we wanted to respond to some of the local and community initiatives. So throughout this whole year, we have learned about current issues that the city of Franklin is facing, like transportation and some of the developing options for alternative modes of transportation. And we learned about initiatives like Get Fit Franklin, which is a community initiative centered around a healthier lifestyle through fitness. And we also learned about the newest initiative, the Public Art Initiative, to just really expand the public art offering here in downtown Franklin. Connectivity was also something that we really wanted to consider. As more and more alternative modes of transportation, like bicycles, are being used, we wanted to offer a place where cyclists could safely store their bicycles while they explored other areas of downtown Franklin. And we wanted this installation to really connect downtown Franklin's most traveled and visited areas. And of course, we wanted this project to be sustainable, something that would last throughout the years in terms of both materials as well as design and style. And lastly, we wanted this project to really be replicable for future Leadership Franklin classes to continue the expansion of public art here in downtown Franklin and beyond, really. So the final design concept that we landed on was what you see here, the Shadow of the Harpeth, and you can see the 3D model over to the left. This this is not only functional public art, but this showcases the spirit and the heritage of Franklin by highlighting one of the most important assets and natural resources here in Franklin, which is the Harpeth River.
The first thing on our to-do list was to find an artist. Duncan McDaniel came highly recommended by the Metro Nashville Arts Commission. He's a graduate of the Savannah College of Art and Design and sees himself as an interdisciplinary artist with a goal of promoting an awareness of place, using light, color, sculptural design elements, and playful interaction. His art ranges from oil paintings and drawings to public art and site-specific installations. Duncan and his wife and new baby girl live in Nashville, but his parents insist on staying in Franklin whenever they come to visit. Our challenge to Duncan was to create a public art piece which would be unique to Franklin, Tennessee, be truly interactive, be more than a piece of art, be usable, and create connectivity. Duncan visited Franklin several times, and on one trip he met with historian Rick Warwick. Duncan designed several pieces for us, and we had a really hard time selecting just one. Some examples of Duncan's public art commission pieces include the Nashville International Airport, Bonnaroo Music Festival, 2 bike racks for the Metro Arts Commission in downtown Nashville, which you can see on the screen. His clients include the Frist, Cheekwood, Belcourt Theater, Tennessee State Capitol, Vanderbilt, the Parthenon, and SunTrust.
One of the important things with the project was to make sure there's usability and durability. Basically, it was the bike rack was set up to accommodate, obviously, a number of bikes in various locations, but something you could chain up and keep your bike secure, et cetera. And it's made of steel and colored with powder-coated paint, so it will materials that will last pretty much indefinitely. And there's a concrete base on the bottom of it. The scale of the bike rack is approximately 10 feet by, move that over, 10 feet by 7 feet. It will be just down from the new Harpeth Hotel, Harpeth Square, and right outside of where they're going to have an outdoor restaurant. So it'll be able to be seen by people in there and also used as a bike rack.
So the process was, it was a labor of love. It was long. There's a lot of levels of approval in the city of Franklin that I was not aware of, and thankfully my teammates were. We started out about 8 or 9 months ago, meeting with the artist. We discussed the concept and selected this one. We met with Steve Bacon, Rod Heller, and Russ Haynes at Harpeth Associates to get their approval of where we could put this, which we appreciated greatly. And had our first, I guess, level of approval. We went to the Franklin Public Arts Commission in January. From there, we went to the Historic Zoning Commission, then their Design Review Committee, and then the Historic Zoning Commission approval was in April. We then went to the BOMA work session, and we're going Tuesday for what we hope will be our final approval. And so installation will depend on the pouring of the concrete, which Steve tells us right now should be in the June, July sort of time frame. As far as partners, as we mentioned, Steve was very helpful. Our classmate, Steve Bacon, was very helpful. Other classmate that was very helpful was Jimmy Phillips with BMC Metalworks. They're the ones that made the model here that you can see. And they're also making the actual bike rack as well. So they've been very helpful, and we appreciate your contribution as well. One of the approval levels had asked us to put together a rendering of what this will look like, and you'll see this in a minute with Chad. Ben Johnson was very helpful in putting that together for us and really just kind of gave people a feel of what the after would look like. Mindy Tate in Franklin tomorrow, saw Mindy walk in a while ago. Also very helpful to us, and we appreciate their support. Amanda Rose, who's the preservation planner with the city of Franklin, kind of helped guide us through the process. Michael D'Amico of the Franklin art scene got involved early on, is going to help us with communication throughout the art community. FPAC, as we mentioned, they were the first one we went to, and we kind of weren't sure if people were going to get behind this or not, and they really guided and supported us. And last but not least, Visit Franklin with Megan and her team. So, Chad, I'll let you wrap it up.
All right. Yeah, as everyone's kind of referenced, I think one of the coolest parts of this project was the cement, the inlay that's going to go in the cement underneath the sculpture. It's a map of downtown Franklin, and when the sun hits it right, it'll cast that exact same shadow behind it as it runs, as the river runs through Franklin. It's, again, what we wanted was this to draw out the history and heritage of Franklin. A lot of people don't realize that there is a river 100 feet away from them here, and it has been a big part of Franklin's history over the centuries. So that was very important to us. The other thing I'd point out on this is there's a little inlaid plaque on the bottom. If my eyes can read the inscription, it says, "A public art installation that serves as a bike rack and as a tribute to the heritage and importance of the Harpeth River in Franklin, Tennessee, commissioned by Leadership Franklin, 2019. So that's one part. I think that the people will be coming up and seeing this piece of art from a ways away, since Steve has found such a prominent location for us. But once they get up there, we really want them to be able to learn a little something about what the river means and what it is, and that it's really only a couple hundred yards away from where they're standing. And so let me go to the next slide. So this is the actual rendering that was referenced that we were asked to do. We'd had several renderings of it, but not one this detailed and good looking. So Ben put together a great thing. And so this is looking from, if you're standing on Main Street, looking down on the opposite corner down 2nd Avenue. And as Kurt mentioned, you've got the cafe at the Harpeth Hotel that's right there. That's going to, we hope for Steve and everyone else involved in that project, is going to be a very busy place. So they'll have something pretty to look at. They can bike right up to it and walk right on in. And then the other thing you might notice in this rendering is that it's that's the Landmark Bank building, which Steve and his team are in the process of refurbishing and rearranging. And I think what's kind of not an eyesore, it's probably a little bit too strong right now, but it's going to be turned into an attribute of downtown with the hotel there and the refurbished bank outside and the landscaping and everything else it's going to go. I think, as we're all aware, the foot traffic in downtown Franklin is going to change a lot in the coming months with the opening of the hotel and the different projects that are going on down there, and even going across the river and connecting with the factory. So it was really important to us and everyone involved and our partners in this project that it was well represented. It gave a little different flavor of Franklin, but also certainly paid tribute to the spirit of what Franklin is and the river is. So with that, I think that we're done. And the only other thing I think I'd add is that we are accepting dollars, if you want some tax exempt dollars, or your company does, we're raising money. This is not an inexpensive project. People like Jimmy and Steve have been incredibly generous with not only their time, but the money they and their companies have put into this and giving us a break. But we still do have a lot of money to raise for it. And, we'll pass a hat around in a few minutes. And if you just we like the kind of cash that jingles, but we really like the kind that folds. But no, I'm just kidding. But it's been a great project. I think I speak for everyone up here. We've really enjoyed working on this. It's been a lot of work, but we're excited to see the finished product later this summer when it's actually installed. So I don't know if we take questions or if anyone wants to ask a question. Paula, what do we need to do? Okay.
Question?
Tina?
I have a question. What's the budget for it?
The original budget was almost $30,000. Thanks to people like Jimmy and Steve and a lot of things being donated, we've gotten it down to about $12,000.
The hat will be right in front of your diploma.
That's right.
Do that, it works. Thanks. Good job. Good job, Jay.
Thought I'd ask. Where do y'all want me to sit? Which way, you want me to sit? I'm gonna stand up. Don't photobomb me, please. We wanted credit for both projects. Come on, Paula, help us out.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna start, so I guess.
All right, well, our first group did a great job, so thank you for team number one. So now we'll get started with team number two. So the members of team number two
Tony's gonna
is,
have control of this.
Yep.
Tony McAllister, Steve Bacon, Chris Whitney, Tina Lilly, and Jenny Clark. Mind the Gap, done in partnership by Franklin Theater and Leadership Franklin, aims to address the issue of hunger in Franklin and Williamson County. According to the organization, 1 in 5 children and 1 in 8 of the general population suffers from food insecurity in Middle Tennessee. So let's hear from team number 2.
I hate to sit down and talk, so it's easier to stand up. But, as you can imagine, I have a passion about this, and our team, when we talked when we first met, agreed to address the issue of hunger in Middle Tennessee. And I get asked this question all the time, why Williamson County? And people don't understand that there's hunger issues right here in our own backyard, that 40% of the kids in FSSD don't know where their next meal is coming from. We have to address this issue. I've talked to different leaders in Franklin. I've been with Ellie Westman Chin, talking about Visitor Bureau, and I said, it's time that Franklin wants to be known as the city that does all these great things. I said, why shouldn't we be known for taking care of our poor instead of denying we have them? There's a big difference, because the poor you'll have with you always. So hunger's become a big issue, and as I was telling a story the other day, I got a call recently from just outside the Williamson County line in Davidson from St. Thomas Healthcare of it's called the Holy Family Medical Center, and this woman called me and she said, would you even consider helping us? Which rips my heart out. She said, we have 10 moms at least a month that aren't nourished enough to be able to nurse their own children. Sounds like Sudan or something, doesn't it? But it's right here in Middle Tennessee, right here in Nashville. So those kinds of issues run everywhere. So we looked for a project that would be sustainable, that we could carry on project after project, and that could make an impact. So we decided to help. There's 6 food banks in Williamson County. There's College Grove has a food bank, Nolensville, Grace Works did have 2 food banks. They've now shut down Fairview, so it'll be down to 5 food banks, us, one Genoway, and the Well in Spring Hill. So as of date right now, and there's going to be a little bit more food and donations coming in, we collected 2,983 pounds of food. And with the money we've collected enough food and money for 5,540 meals here in Middle Tennessee. So, it was a labor of love for me, and I hopefully my team feels the same way. They realize we do work, actually, physical labor for a living. Canned goods are heavy, if y'all didn't notice. They really get heavy, but this team was amazing to work with. And the reason for our twofold was to feed people, but also to bring awareness of the need that's here in Middle Tennessee and how we can change and take we're the 7th wealthiest county in the country. So my goal is that we take our county, our city, and we feed this state, because we've got the resources to do this. And I believe we can create a groundswell of people to end this and wipe hunger off the face of America. So with that, I'll turn it over.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the process for our project. The first thing that we had to do was we had to get boxes for the collection of food. Some of those were donated, and we also raised some money to purchase some of those boxes. We also we wanted to create a logo. And one of the reasons we wanted to create a logo was so that our project would have a face And we wanted the project to be sustainable, so it would be a recognizable attribute to the project. So we want to say thank you to Twine Graphics for creating the logo and donating it to the project. We had to find locations for the boxes, and we had so much support, and many of you in this room as well, and we want to say thank you to all of our location box sponsors. In total, I believe we ended up with 50 locations. We created brochures to generate interest and also to get information out about our project. We released those to the media, and they also did several media in newspaper and also on radio. So we want to say thank you to WAKM, Williamson Herald, the Franklin homepage, and social media sites for various box location sponsors. We also had the Franklin Theater jump in, and we had a day at Franklin Theater where anyone from the public could come and pay to watch a movie, donate food, and then Franklin Theater donated the proceeds from popcorn sales to our project. So that was a huge day for us, very fun. We had to then coordinate the delivery of all of the boxes right after that day in the next week, and then coordinate the pickup of all of those boxes with all of the food. And as Chris said, they get pretty heavy, so we had quite the day, each of us at all of our various, we split it all up to go and collect it all. We did have others jump in. Grab a Green, which is a restaurant in Cool Springs, donated 10% of their purchases if you mentioned Mind the Gap. So we really had a lot of support from a lot of different areas, and we met once a month at least, if not more often, and then talked by email and phone quite often to make sure from start to finish everything was coordinated, and we were able to pull the project off successfully. So that's a little bit about the process, and with that, I'll turn it over so that we can show you our video.
Much like Chris, I prefer to stand up. So, one of the things I'd like to point out before we get in the video is we had several locations, as Jenny said, we had about 50 locations that let us put our boxes up. And then those locations would also push out the word to their constituency about what the Mind the Gap program is like. And one specific one I wanted to mention, just as an example, was BGA. We got BGA to put several boxes up at their campus, and if any of you have ever been on their campus, it's beautiful, it's lovely. But as they pushed it out to their constituency, they were really pushing to the students to let them understand how fortunate those students are to live where they live, to have the lives they have, go to the school they go to. But just right next door, there's children who are food insecure, and make them well aware of that. So when we went over to pick up the boxes there, we had a tremendous amount of food delivered from BGA. And putting the boxes in the car, there was they had supplied a few 8th graders to help us load up the car. And my wife was with me, and she said, "Gosh, you guys put out a lot of food." The kid looked at her very proudly and said, "That's the BGA way." And what I like about that is that can be the Franklin way. For us doing what we're doing here, that also can be the Franklin way. A lot of us on our team, hopefully not to put words in people's mouths, but we did not understand from the bubble that we live in, that is Franklin and Williamson County, the need that's right here in Franklin and Williamson County. And a lot of that was introduced to us by Chris and One Generation Away. Thank you very much for opening our eyes to that. But I'll stop talking because a lot of you know that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So we'll let you see the picture of how we did this and what it all means.
crushing, in the pressing, you were making new wine. And the soil I now surrender, you were breaking new ground. So I yield to you and to your careful hand. When I trust you, I don't need to understand. Oh, make me a vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. I came here with nothing, and all you've given me, Jesus, bring new wine out of me. In the crushing, in the pressing, you were making new wine. And the soil I now surrender, you were breaking new ground. So I yield to you and to your careful hand. When I trust you, I don't need to understand. Oh, make me a vessel, make me your offering, make me whatever you want me to be. I came here with nothing, and all you've given me, Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. 'Cause where there is new wine, there is new power, there is new freedom, and the kingdom is here. I lay down my old flames to carry your new fire today.
So, first I want to say a big thank you to Scott Whitcamp. He's a videographer that works for me at QuickCube. And he did all the video that you saw there and put the whole thing together, edited it for us. He did a terrific job, I think, in the team's opinion. So if any of you need a videographer, let me know. I can plug you into one really well. And as you can see, a lot of that had to do with what we were doing with our project, but also how it feeds into the bigger piece of the project, which was the food distribution day that One General A was doing. And I just really want to say out in front of everybody, Chris, thank you very much for what you and your organization does for the community. That's amazing. I'll turn it over to Steve Bacon. He'll tell you the rest of it.
When we first met, we were talking about our projects. Of course, I wanted to build something and see it. Then Chris started talking about what I had no idea was this need out here in this community. And I think all of us just switched, and we said, we have got to do this. So we were all committed in that first day when he laid out the need in this county. And we hope, and we're going to throw down the gauntlet to the next year, is to do it again, because there's a need. There's a more of a need. And I never knew that. Never knew what this county needed. So there's people here that need people like Chris and for us to help out. And you guys, several of you, we reached out to you. It was just a phenomenal response. Ricky, your people were incredible. I went there with half a card. I thought surely I could get in everything. I had to go back. I had to go back and get an empty car to get all the stuff. So thank you for that. And West Haven, Jason, and all you Synergy banks, that what you did, and everybody else. So this is a caring community, but sometimes we have to realize, we have to let everybody know that there is that need. So again, this was Chris's vision, but we were, we realized it's a need that we wanted to do right away. So it was exciting, it was fun, and I think it helps the people that need it the most.
So as a child, my mother used to say, clean your plate, there are starving children in Africa. And I would clean my plate because I couldn't stand the thought of somebody not having food or me being wasteful. And so I just want to challenge everyone to be mindful as you take each bite, because there's someone that's not getting fed. We have a lot of children that are in our schools that are on free lunch or reduced lunch, and they also get free or reduced breakfast. They come in the morning, they eat breakfast, they eat lunch, and then they go home, and some of them do not eat dinner. They don't eat till they come to school the next day. The sad part is a lot of them leave on Friday. They don't see their next meal till Monday. That's an issue. And here we are in the wealthiest county. You know, we're all very blessed in this room, and we don't even think about it. We kind of take it for granted that we have food and you know, have a stocked pantry and a stocked refrigerator. And these people that you saw in the video, they're very proud people, and you know, they just have a life situation right now that they need help, and they have to really swallow their egos and be vulnerable to stand in that line and ask for free food. And so I think, you know, the reason we're all here on this earth is to serve each other and to help those in need. So I challenge you all, please give, please help out. This is something that we hope to continue from years on, and through One Generation Away and Chris's help, we can do that. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to take about a 15-minute break. So if we want to get started with group number 3 at about 9:15, we'll see you back then. Our team number 3, the members are Shedrick Wright, Jason Kaplan, Michelle Hatcher, Scott Legeza, and Jimmy Phillips. So Team 3 decided to focus their project on the Community Child Care Center on Folks Avenue. This facility provides child care to those families that need a lower income option and is in the heart of Franklin, serving the community that surrounds it. This center provides quality care for children ages 6 weeks to 6 years and receives a 3-star rating. Together, they have identified several areas in which they can provide financial resources and a little bit of sweat to help provide these opportunities to the children of their community. We'll hear from team number 3.
All right, thank you. So we're Team 3, obviously the best group ever. We'll introduce ourselves first. I'm Jason Kaplan, mortgage lender with Franklin Synergy Bank.
I'm Shedrick Wright, Executive Technology Director at Caterpillar Financial Services.
Yeah, hey, I'm Scott Legaza with Franklin Police Department.
I'm Jimmy Phillips, President of BMC Metalworks, and no jokes about the bow tie this morning. I thought I would jazz up my graduation celebration, and actually Kurt forgot his tie, and he's offered big cash for the bow tie.
I'm Michelle Hatcher with the Water Management Department for the City of Franklin.
All right, so we're going to bring the presentation professionalism down a little bit from the last group to something a little more amateur. But what we have, so an outline, just what we're going to talk about today. So we introduced ourselves, the intro, which you're experiencing now. We're going to do an overview of the Child Care Center, some of the goals and needs that we found, fundraising, and then, of course, some pictures. So as I was thinking back to the process of choosing a project, I remember sitting on the porch at Deer Run, and we were talking about all the things we could do, and I think the choice became pretty obvious. We talked about Parks Department, we talked about an outdoor concert series, we talked about cleanup projects, etc. And then Shedrick said he was on the board of this child care center in the middle of downtown Franklin that I don't think any of us had heard of before. And it provided a nurturing, caring, educational environment for working families, many of whom can least afford it. And that's just something that we hear about a lot and that is really needed, is affordable childcare for working families. Over the next couple weeks, we thought about all of our options, and we just kept coming back to the Child Care Center. We went to go visit. We met with the director, Tara Blue, and from then we knew this is where we wanted to focus our efforts. Each of us is a parent. Some of us have older children and some are younger still. And so it really tugged on our heartstrings. And you can see why here, those little cuties. Some of those pictures are a little older than others. And so this is really why we chose this. We just kept gravitating back towards this child care center. And when you go and visit and see all those little faces, and you just can't help but want to help them. And the last thing I would say is I think probably all of us have felt a little stressed lately. We all have work pressures and family pressures and outside activities and putting together this presentation. And but our group felt so proud when the pictures came over, and we just felt elated for those kids when Tara sent pictures of them at their brand new computers, which you'll hear about more, or when we learned that they are going to have a brand new playground by next school year, which you'll also hear about. And I just know that I personally have felt very fulfilled by this, and so glad that we had the opportunity to do a project and that this is what we chose. So with that, I'll turn over to Shedrick, who's just going to go over some of the details about the center.
Thanks, Jason. As Jason said, this project became very personal to this team, and you will see based on some of the results later on in the project. But, I want to give you a visual. This center is located behind the Carter House off Columbia on Folks Avenue. It's there. I lived in Franklin, probably less than 2 miles away from that center before I became a board member, and never knew it was there. It's been there well over 40 years. I have only had 2 directors. Tara Blue is the second director. Ms. Hattie was the director for over 40 years. So stability in the community is there. The center is truly living its nonprofit mission and vision of serving low-income families. Most of the parents are from single-parent homes. They are trying to work or they're trying to go back to school. So really the center not only focuses on providing excellent 3-star service to the students, but also they're enhancing the parents. Most parents have to have a job or going back to school in order for the kids to be able to attend that center. We often bring in speakers to talk to the parents about budgeting, financial issues, really trying to promote them as well to go back to school. And as you'll hear later on in the presentation, with the lab, a lot of the parents will be able to come in and take computer web-based classes and different things like that to be able to aid them. Currently, the center is serving about 63 kids, and most of those kids are from Williamson County, a few from Rutherford County, and a couple from Davidson County because their parents work in Williamson County. Really, the center, we're going to be focusing on growth over the next 12 months. I think it can grow to about 90 students. We'll have to add a few more qualified teachers to make that happen, which we'll be focusing on. But, also, with the center, we're also going to start focusing on the professionalism of the teachers and try to get their education level up. And again, the lab would also benefit them because it will allow them to take well-based training classes from, say, a Columbia State. As you think more about, kind of how the students are achieving at the center, most students are achieving at a 90% percentile. And those students that have gaps or delays, there's a strong partnership with the City of Franklin, Franklin Special School District and Williamson County Schools, and Let's Talk Thurber to mind any gaps that might be left with those other students. So strong partnership that have been forged over the years. When you think a little about the tuition, as Jason said earlier, it's focused on low-income families. About 55% of the revenue of the center come from only the tuition. So really, the other 45% had to come from other funding sources. And when you think about it, we was in a meeting maybe about 3 weeks ago, William Way, the allocation meeting, and I'm a person, I don't like a lot of accolades or a lot of pats on the back, but we was presenting a poster we prepared on behalf of the center, and most of the deliverables to move the center forward came from this Leadership Franklin project. So that was a very proud moment for me. I allowed myself to probably pat myself on the back, but I want to thank this team for taking on this project and trying to move this center forward. Again, as you will hear later on, some of the other donations, which this team was able to drive a lot of partnerships and donations through other Williamson County agencies and businesses, which you'll hear about later. So I will turn it over to Scott now to talk a little bit about our other services from the center, as well as the scope of our project.
Do we have a video? Must forget that. When our group met to discuss this project, we collectively got together and we wanted to understand the services and the curriculum that this service provided. So anyway, we got together as a group and met with the center's director, Tara. In our meeting, we learned that the Child Center offers services that nurture and stimulate a child's growth and development. The center also offers indoor and outdoor activities, nutritious meals and snacks, and active learning, and also educational field trips. Services that this center also offer, as far as the learning aspect, they offer phonemic awareness. I think I need to go back to school to learn what this word means. I'd ask my group what this word means. But to understand what this word does mean, it's using the Wilson language principles that are taught to the children. Also, second, math curriculum, which they use a Spectrum math workbook. This readiness helps preschoolers improve and strengthen their basic math skills. Second part of our meeting, we wanted to establish what this center's needs were. When we met with again with Tara at the Child Care Center, 2 priority needs were immediately established. And these 2 needs were obviously a playground and a computer lab. We learned that the group, we learned that the children at this facility were only receiving computer instruction twice a month from a private third party. We also learned that the centers only had 2 computers for all children. So to put this in better perspective, it's 1 computer per 4 children. So that makes it very difficult for a child to really focus in and learn what's being taught by the teacher. So we recognize these 2 things or actually this computer lab as being one of the needs. Second need was a playground. The center has minimum equipment with some pieces being many years old. A playhouse piece had to be removed recently due to inappropriate activity occurring on this piece of equipment. Cedric, one of our members here, which you've met, he and his company recognized the need for a fence to surround this playground area. He actually did this prior to we meeting about this project. But anyway, he and his company recognized the need to surround the playground, to restrict access and persons coming onto the playground property to safeguard that playground area. The fence has served this purpose. However, the children at the center need more, and we recognize that. Playground equipment, the playground equipment that they currently have is very limited. So we as a group decided to get together. We recognize 2 needs. So we decided, well, hey, why not? Let's try to make both happen. So that's kind of where our journey took us. I'm going to leave it to Jimmy.
Thank you, Scott. I want to talk a little bit about the fundraising and the solicitation, but as we've heard, we identified the computer needs and also the playground equipment needs. And part of this started all the way back in November of 2018 on Education Day. And we were at Hope Academy, and that's where we got the first idea with respect to the computer needs. And we were very impressed with the Microsoft representative, Candace Cromry, and she was there at New Hope and doing a presentation with Stuart Tutler. And after that session, Cedric had the idea that perhaps we can partner with Microsoft with respect to the computer needs in the lab that we were thinking about. So that's where part of the solicitation and part of the fundraising began. In January, our team met and decided to put together a communication or a solicitation fundraising letter. And what we did was targeted business and community leaders and family and friends, and really introduced this group to Leadership Franklin and to our project team and to the needs, and in that letter attempted to educate them on Community Life Center, and describe the project, the computers, the playground equipment, and it was really, I think, easy when you highlighted children 6 weeks to 6 years of age. That communication has a place in everyone's heart. So that was one of the opportunities that we seized in our fundraising letter. You can see in the PowerPoint that to date we've raised over $15,000 for the project, and some of the companies that are named here: Franklin Synergy, First Farmers, DPR Construction, C&T Engineering, BMC Metalworks, Veris Healthcare, West Haven Foundation. We knew the mayor of West Haven, Jason, who helped us with that fundraising. Karen Hansen, our furthest out-of-state contributor, Florida. Caterpillar, Cedric, and again, Microsoft. I think one of the key notes here is 9 of these sponsors to date are new sponsors, new introduction to Community Life Center. And as we've noted, West Haven has committed to a three-year sponsorship for the center. So the Microsoft fundraising will continue. They have a program where they reimburse the charity or the nonprofit for every hour of service. So to date, I think, Shedrick, we have about 20 hours that are committed to the Life Center. And of course, there will be monies or a check written to Tara and the center for those fundraising. Okay. Michelle?
So I get to talk about the fun stuff. So the first kind of enhancements, the needs that we identified was the computer lab. So we have ordered and it's been delivered 12 HP notebooks, which is kind of like in between a tablet and a laptop. So you can see there, that's not quite the computer lab, that's the cafeteria, but those are the good shots of each kid having their own computer that they can play with, and they're not doing one click, and sharing that between 4 kids. They're learning the life skills that they're going to need to be functionable in this community. So the director, Tara, also ordered a computer cart for storage, so she can, kind of move those computers back and forth in between different rooms and different classrooms. Let's see, we can go to the next one. So the other thing, so we've purchased and we've had the computers delivered. The other thing that we've put a partial down payment on, Tara has paid for half of the playground that should be delivered this summer. And these are some renderings that we have of kind of some of the equipment that's going to be delivered. So the entire program, or the entire playground, if you've ever bought a swing set for your kids, is not cheap. So it's in total about over $22,000. So we've been able to donate about half of that from the proceeds that we had fundraised to that purpose. And then she also wants to get like a rubber matting, which is additional monies that'll be done a little bit later. One of the great things, though, about some of the sponsors that we've brought, so DPR Construction is actually going to offer to install the playground, which is going to reduce some of that installation cost, about $7,600. And then that's where, in our intro, where we talked about our sweat equity. So we'll be coming in this summer and helping do whatever we're allowed to do to install the playground. So we're pretty excited about all of being able to provide, these kids with this opportunity and life skills that's going to help them as they get into the school system in Williamson County.
I'm in the middle no matter what. I think if you stand up right there. You're right there.
All right, so we just had another great presentation there from group number 3, and so we're down to our last group for the day. So we've got group number 4, which is Leslie Mitchell, Lacey Simonton, Walker Entwistle, Cole Hodges, and Eric McElroy. So team number 4 has decided to continue the beautification of the Harlandales Farm by creating a safer, accessible, and serviceable path for the guest. The existing path is very rough, and their project will create a path that is friendly to everyone, including pets. Along the path are spectacular views, and they plan to enhance those views by adding a bench to allow guests to take a moment to soak in the beautiful surroundings and their environment. They also plan to install a tying post for horses. Many people are looking for new areas to bring their horses, and this project will allow horse riders to tie their animals while they take advantage of the serene setting. Also, many of the project team are dog owners, and as an act to keep our parks fun but clean, they are installing dog stations to grant the ability for dog owners to clean up after their pets. This will keep our parks clean for all who want to enjoy the exquisite surroundings. Team number 4.
Thanks. Okay, hello everybody. I'm gonna stand, can y'all hear me? Is that okay? Awesome. Okay, so we're project group number 4, and we're gonna talk about the overlook improvements at the park at Harlansdale Farm. But first, of course, we wanna introduce our group. So we have Eric, Leslie, y'all know their last names, Cole, Walker, and myself. Names are on the screen, and we wanted to kind of show you the first day of Leadership Franklin for anybody who's not familiar. We do little personality tests, and we learn about our individual dynamics. So we think it's really important always to reference that, and you can see by the way our group personalities kind of spun out how this whole project went. We got a lot of red, y'all. We got a lot of red. So before we even really dive deep, big thank you to friends at Franklin Park and the city of Franklin and the Parks Department. They are truly the 5th and 6th man of this team, or sorry, 6th and 7th of this team. They are an incredible asset to our project, and they are really what helps make this happen. So here we roll. So you heard from Project Group 1, who talked about the importance of connectivity to the city of Franklin and what that's going to look like for our overall future. That's also really critical when you're talking about trails, sidewalks, pathways, and how that really plays into the overall envision of Franklin and what we're going to look like going forward. So just a quick little overview from connectivity. So the city of Franklin has a plan put in place for both trails and pathways, as well as the overall Envision Franklin plan that will basically interconnect all of our city, from sidewalks to trails, and then the most important asset, which we heard earlier, the Harpeth River. So if anybody's canoed down, you now know that you can put in right outside Lockwood Glen, make your way all the way past the park at Harlansdale, and continue on. So we wanted to make sure that we were putting together a project that kind of focuses on what the Envision Franklin's going to be going forward. So here's just a little idea about some of the connectivity going from Eastern Flank to Pinkerton, from Pinkerton to Harlansdale, and then Harlansdale on to Judge Fulton Greer. All of this, of course, is on the city's website, but it plays really well into why we chose to make improvements to this very specific part of Harlansdale Farm. Okay. So speaking of Harlansdale, we had a little field trip there earlier this year, and it was beautiful. There were lots of trees planted. So, and in Harlansdale, just for you to remember the history of, it used to be an equine farm to the Harlan family. It started in 1933. It's about 200 acres right off Franklin Road. So currently it's bordered by Franklin Road and Matt Hatcher, and the Harpeth River runs straight through it. The city opened the first phase of the park in 2007 for activities to start, and then certain improvements have kind of come along since then. Ones that you might be familiar with, the Tractor Supply Arena, the improvements of the main barn, and this is the vision for the park at Harlansdale going forward. So Friends of Franklin Park have pretty ambitious goals to refinish the Hayes House that's on the property, some of the worker houses that are on property, build a new kind of electrical base so that we can have more power and offer different services to not only our residents in Williamson County, but also to visitors. So that form and function will be put in place. And then the long-term vision is to also add a beautiful museum to talk about the equine history that is here in Franklin. So of course, Harlansdale Park also was home to Midnight Sun, which was one of the most famous Tennessee walking horses. The lineage of that horse can be found in pretty much every champion of the Tennessee Walking Horse Festival going forward. So it's a pretty important piece to not only Williamson County history and Franklin history, but the equine.
So I'm here to discuss our vision for Harlansdale. When we first sat down to discuss our project, it was clear that we collectively shared a love for the amazing parks that Franklin has to offer. We wanted to center our project around adding to the parks in some meaningful way. What was not clear is how we could add to the parks that are already spectacular. Leslie and Lacey have a passion for animals, and therefore we discussed the possibility of improving the amenities for animals at our parks. This led to a discussion of potentially centering our project around establishing an equine therapy program or otherwise improving the equine trails. From there, our focus narrowed on Harlansdale Farm because of its rich history in the equine industry that Lacey mentioned. In discussing the equine trails in Harlansdale, Eric and Cole mentioned the walking path in the northwest corner of the park that leads to an opening overlooking the park and the Harpeth River. So who here has been to Harlansdale Farm? I know all of you all have. Now, how many of you have been to the Overlook Trail at Harlansdale Farm? Well, neither Leslie nor I had ever heard of the path. This was surprising to me in particular because I live walking distance from Harlansdale. I'm in the park weekly, and I'd never heard of it. So if you want to go to the drone footage. Oh, there's the entrance.
We'll go back to the entrance.
Okay, so the path starts near the silo behind the pond and leads to around 2 miles of trails. While Harlansdale is known for the hundreds of acres of open space, this path is set back in a wooded area with a total ascent of around 200 feet. At the top of the ascent, there's an opening from which you're able to see the rest of the park, the Harpeth River, and portions of the city skyline. The path provides a completely different atmosphere than the rest of Harlansdale. We each toured the path and felt that the path was amazing, but we also felt that we could add to the path by making the path more accessible, easier to travel, and by bringing more awareness to the path. Thus, we found our project. And I want to thank Liz and Andy McLaurin for this amazing drone footage.
So as Walker mentioned, our project team decided to continue the beautification of Harlansdale Farm. On Land Resource Day, we learned that we're all fortunate to have amenities such as parks, sporting fields, places to take our dogs, and also historic points of interest right here in our town. One of those places is the park at Harlansdale Farm, which is nestled right in downtown Franklin, within walking distance of Walker's Place, if he ever invites you over, and also many of our homes and places of business. Our team looks to enhance the area further by creating a safer, accessible, and more serviceable path for guests along the Primitive Trail up the hillside. As you can see from these pictures, the existing path is a little rough. Our team will help to create a path that's more friendly to everyone, including horses and domestic pets. Our path winds up and around the gradual hillside and includes an overlook with spectacular views along the way. Our team believes that this will improve the experience for future visitors. This project is positive for multiple reasons. Whether you're looking for an area to enjoy individually, with friends, family, or with man's best friend, you can find it at the park at Harlansdale Farm. The trail system is a great resource for those of us looking for more opportunities to get outside by ourselves or with friends and family. Horse lovers are looking for new areas to bring their horses, and our team will provide a hitching post towards the top of the hill for horse riders to hitch up their horses and be able to take in the views of the hillside. Along the scenic path, we plan to assist with the cleanup. It is noted there is trash currently at the top of the hillside that is deemed to be hazardous to remove. Some of it probably dates back to the 1850s. Some of the Civil War soldiers left some beer bottles and things like that up there, so we're not supposed to touch that. We will also add a dog station, or better known as a mutt mitt station, along the way, and add trash receptacles along the path to keep our park clean for generations. This group plans to enhance the views of the overlook by adding a bench, a hitching post for horses. With the help of Friends of Franklin Parks and the City of Franklin, we have made sure that the bench, the hitching post, the mutt mitt station, and the trash receptacles are all similar to ones used in other parts of the park. These amenities give guests a place to relax. It will also allow them to take in a moment, simply soak in the surroundings and of the environment, and it is nestled right in the middle of our town. Leslie.
Okay, so our project first had to be approved by the City of Franklin Parks Department. We thank Lisa Clayton, I see you over there. And fortunately, our idea did work with the vision for the park at Harlansdale Farm. So we started with a proposed layout of the overlook area and discussed the project with Tori Barnhill with the Friends of Franklin Parks and Kevin Lindsay with the City of Franklin Parks. And the Parks Department did have some suggestions. They wanted to make sure, as Cole said, that our items were consistent with the other items already in the park. And they also had some suggestions on the layout. Specifically, they wanted the trash receptacle towards the end of the trail so that it would make it easier to maintain, keeping it cleaned out. And we had also originally thought about the dog stations, and based on their recommendation, we changed that to 1. The next concern was that our area would not cause an undue burden to City of Franklin with maintenance, and they assured us that our project area could easily be added to the existing maintenance that was already taking place on the equestrian trail. So the City of Franklin Parks actually obtained the quotes from existing vendors to determine the best pricing for our project items. So it ended up that the bench was purchased directly from the manufacturer, which is Keystone Ridge Designs. You saw that photo just a minute ago. The dog station also came from the manufacturer, Mutt Mitt. The trash receptacle was purchased at a local vendor, Allied Bearing, and the materials for the hitching post came from a local Tractor Supply store. You can see the cost. Our total came to $2,641. That breaks down to $1,598 for the bench. The trash receptacle was $679. The Mutt Mitt station was $220, and the hitching post was $144. We will also be getting a plaque for the bench that'll come from Trophy House, and that should be about $65. The City of Franklin Parks will install everything to make sure it meets their requirements, and they have estimated 9 labor hours for the installation. And we were able to fund this project through the generous donations of Franklin Synergy Bank, Stites and Harbison, the Parks Companies, and WSP USA. And if there are any funds left over, the money will generously remain with the Friends of Franklin Parks for future projects. And we collected the donations, gave them directly to the Friends of Franklin Parks. The City of Franklin purchased the items, and the Friends of Franklin Parks will pay the invoices.
Squeeze in there. Okay, like everybody said, a lot of the help that we received was from Friends of Franklin Parks and the City of Franklin. And so once we started thinking about the items that we would need, next thing we started talking about was the schedule. So we started coming up with our own schedule and then realized that really the schedule was going to be based on the procurement process. So going through this process with Friends of Franklin Parks and City of Franklin already having that existing relationship with the vendor, we were able to use them, and so our schedule was really based on as soon as they could get the items that were here. They could get the items that we needed as soon as we raised the money. So all of us, with all of our companies, had enough to raise the money for this project, so this project is fully funded. For those who have not completed your funding yet, we are fully funded. Okay, so after we had raised all of our money, we did survey the path to kind of get an idea on the best location for these items. And so we kind of created a little map and went over it with the City of Franklin, went over it with Friends of Franklin Parks, and we all came to a final agreement, because the main thing that we needed from Friends of Franklin and definitely City of Franklin was their buy-in, because City of Franklin agreed to keep the maintenance up on every item that we had there. So that was one of the most crucial portions to our project. We wanted to make sure that everybody was happy with it and that everybody else in the community would be able to enjoy it. So originally we were hoping to have this completed in mid to late summer, but as of now we believe that we can have it done on June 1st, which is when we plan on having a soft opening and a ribbon cutting. Does anyone know what we celebrate on June 1st? Okay, good answer. Lacey? National Trails Day. So what a perfect day to have a ribbon cutting for our event. So we hope that we can bring a new twist to Harlansdale and offer the visitors and the citizens of Franklin just one more place to enjoy the beautiful city of Franklin. Yet again, thanks so much to City of Franklin and Friends of Franklin Parks for all your help. We had such an amazing group to work on this project, and I couldn't ask for a better group. I'd like to thank, on behalf of, I guess, of the entire class, I'd like to thank everybody's spouses, family, and friends for having the patience and the energy to allow us to take on this endeavor. I'd like to thank all my classmates for such an amazing experience. I'm sure we'll all have long-lasting relationships for the rest of our life. And last but not least, I'd like to thank Paula and Debbie for allowing us to all enroll in this course. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Team 4. You know, in the break, Jason and I were talking, and we said there's a country music song called Days Are Long, But Years Fly By. And I think you could probably look back at y'all's year and think that some of these 12-hour days that you guys were experiencing were long days, but the year went by fast. I think you could probably say today. And so with that, I'd like to congratulate you all on a great graduation group presentation day that we had today. Like I said, I think this is my 6th year that I've done this, and every year I get the privilege of getting to see these projects every year, and it's amazing what every group comes up with, and what a great job that you did. So obviously you should feel very proud of yourself. I know that you can all look back and you can appreciate what you've seen, what you've learned, what you've experienced. And as of today, you're going to join an elite group of alumni of Leadership Franklin, and you should all be very proud of that. You've referred to yourself, or I assume that you've referred to yourself as the best group ever, or the best class ever. And to be able to continue to make claim to that title, I encourage you all to stay involved in Leadership Franklin through the alumni program. I'm sure that you'll hear more about that, about the alumni program later this afternoon. But I encourage you all to attend and support the alumni events, the graduation events in the future. Debbie and Paula continue to do a great job, and I know that they'll appreciate your continued support and involvement in Leadership Franklin. So with that, this concludes our project presentations, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.